Priscilla was Jewish, but she had converted to Christianity. She's mentioned in a few places in the Bible, especially by Paul. So when Paul was writing that letter to the Christians in Rome, the book of Romans as we know it today, he also mentioned Priscilla and her husband Aquila in that letter. So we saw in the last Women of the Bible that I did just before this one, Phoebe, Paul mentioned Priscilla also in Romans chapter 16 in verse 3. So in the letter, he's telling the Christians in Rome to say hello to Priscilla and Aquila, her husband. They usually always mentioned together. They're a team. Say hello to them. They almost risked their lives for him. They are like God's servants, and not just for him. They also almost risked their lives for the church and for the Gentile churches, and to say hello to the members who meet in their house, the house church. So they meet in Priscilla's house. If you remember Lydia also, I said that at Philippi, when Paul formed the church, it was in Lydia's house that they formed the first church in Europe, and the people were meeting there because there was no place of worship at Philippi before Paul now formed this church, and then he had to leave abruptly. So he's saying hello to Priscilla, and so in this this Priscilla, some scholars think she wrote the book of Hebrews. There is a controversy about it, that no, it's not her. Some probably because they just don't want to admit that a woman wrote the book, and some think no, it's not her. I don't think it's her. It's not because she's a woman or not a woman. I just don't think that Priscilla wrote the book of Hebrews, though we don't know who wrote the book of Hebrews. Some say it's Paul, some say it might be Timothy, and some now says it might be Priscilla. And when Paul also went to Corinth, he also met Priscilla and Aquila, the husband, at Corinth. So they were there together. She seems to be such a woman who loves the Lord deeply. She's into missionary. So she's always there with Paul, supporting his ministry, her and her husband. And when Caesar banished all the Jews from Rome, so they went to Corinth, Paul met with them there. And they were also tent makers like Paul. That was their occupation. So they supported Paul a lot. And when Paul left for Syria, he took Priscilla and the husband and Aquila with him. So they carried on the work of God in Syria. And at Ephesus, Priscilla and her husband Aquila met a man called Apollo. Apollo was a very dedicated and devoted man. He taught the word of God, and he taught it with passion and with boldness. However, he only knew about the baptism of John the Baptist. He didn't know about Jesus. So both Priscilla and Aquila took Apollo under their wings and now taught him more about the word of God, about Yahweh, about Jesus. They taught him more, and he had a teachable spirit. And then he also went and taught others. So that's why it's imperative that you have someone you look up to, like a mentor. It's not everything that we will know. We cannot know everything. We know in part, we understand in part. And some things that we don't know, our mentors can put us right. They can correct us. A lot of times I make mistakes. It's when I'm watching my video back that I say, okay, I shouldn't have said that, or no, it wasn't this, it was this. But when you are teaching, your mind is just so focused, you don't even realize you've made that mistake. Otherwise, you would have corrected yourself immediately. So you need a mentor. I had a lot of wacky ideas before. It's unbelievable how I'm still a Christian. And I so rigidly believed in my views. I know they were my views and they were right. So, you know, but from studying and from being in class under lecturers, I've now then had to readjust my way of thinking that no, okay, maybe I was actually wrong. That wasn't true. I got that bit wrong, or that one I misunderstood what the Bible was saying there. So you do need, so they took Apollo under the wing and they taught him, both husband and wife. So those who are against women teaching, there was a guy on one of the sites I went to. He just blatantly said, no, I need to shut up. I need to stop teaching. I'm a woman. I just need to be in the kitchen. God gave me this gift of teaching. If God did not want me to teach, he wouldn't have given it to me. So I'm not going to shut up. So Priscilla, the woman, and her husband, they both taught Apollo, and then he was clearer about it. And also in 2 Timothy, when Paul wrote his final letter to Timothy, he also says in there that greet Priscilla and her husband Aquila. So here we can see a woman that God used. God used her in so various ways. She made Paul's ministry that little bit easier because of her support. Our pastors, they all need support. There's always some people who will be there that will just make their ministry a bit easier. Unfortunately, sometimes in some churches, when they see that there's someone there who is God has placed that person there to support that pastor, they will turn the pastor against that person. And unfortunately, most of the time, the pastor is too blind, spiritually blind, to see exactly what is happening. He's too far gone to note that actually this is the person God has placed here to assist my ministry. Instead, he will join forces and get rid of that person, and then they are not able to get to him, because that person that God planted there was kind of shielding him, because the person was there and just could see, but the pastor couldn't. That's why we need to pray for our pastors. So Priscilla was there supporting Paul's ministry, helping him, and Paul was equally grateful and appreciative of what she did, her and her husband. It's not known if they had children, because they did travel a lot, they moved around a lot, so they could do this missionary work without hindrance. But I don't know, maybe they had the children and the nanny looked after the kids. I don't know. I really didn't research it. I didn't look it up, to be honest, so I don't know. So anyway, this is Priscilla in Women of the Bible, a phenomenal woman. She supported the ministry, and she helped men of God, and she supported the church. She also opened up her house for a church. So there was a house church in her house. So, that's why you see we are reading about her today. She had a heart for God, which is what each and every one of us should do. We should always have that heart, that passion for God, and just help in the little way that we can. It doesn't have to be massive. You don't have to give thousands in the church, but just your presence. You're just there. You're just making things run smoothly, just there. So God bless you. See you in the next woman. Bye.